Good evening, everyone. We're truly glad to have you back with us tonight. Buses are supposed to take us from one place to another, but sometimes the real journey happens in the dark spaces in between. Tonight's stories will make you think twice before riding alone after midnight. So grab your headphones, dim the lights, and don't forget to subscribe for more horror stories to keep you up at night. You're watching Sleep Horror Stories. I've always preferred traveling at night. There's something about empty roads, the soft hum of the engine, and the flickering streetlights that helps me unwind. Night trips used to relax me, until 2017. That year, everything changed. My name's Mario. I had to travel between cities for work. It was about a 5-hour trip, and as usual, I picked the last bus out of the terminal so I could sleep and wake up ready for the next day. The bus wasn't full, plenty of empty seats. I picked one near the back, next to the restroom, where I could stretch out a bit. It started like any other ride. I put on my headphones, leaned back, and closed my eyes. Barely 2 hours in, the bus stopped at a tiny roadside stop. Not a terminal, just a remote pull-off where passengers sometimes got on or off. A few people boarded. Nothing out of the ordinary until I noticed a man. I never saw when exactly he got on, but suddenly he was sitting across the aisle from me. Tall, thin guy dressed in all black. He wore a baseball cap low over his face. At first, I didn't think much of it. But with so many empty seats, why sit so close? I brushed it off. People are weird sometimes. Later, I glanced out the window and saw something that made my skin crawl. In the reflection, I could see the silhouettes of all the other passengers, dimly lit by the cabin lights. All of them, except him. There was no reflection where he was sitting. I thought maybe it was the angle. Maybe the light wasn't hitting him right. But no matter how I shifted, his shape never showed in the glass. I tried to shake it off and close my eyes again. But every time I peeked, he was still there. Unmoving. Perfectly still. Not adjusting his posture. Not even breathing, it seemed. Like a statue. The next stop came. The driver turned on the lights and told people to get off quickly. I looked back over at his seat, and it was empty. He was gone. But when I looked out the window again, his reflection was still there. I froze. I scanned the bus to see if anyone else noticed. Nothing. No one reacted. It was like I was the only one seeing this. I tried to stay calm. Told myself maybe he switched seats and I hadn't noticed. Later, I asked an older man sitting a few rows ahead if he'd seen anyone sitting next to me. He said he didn't think so. Didn't remember anyone there. My brain scrambled for a rational answer. But a part of me knew the truth. I had seen him. I had seen his reflection. I had felt his presence. So why hadn't anyone else? When we arrived at the terminal, I waited until everyone got off. I didn't want to look paranoid, so I casually approached the driver under the excuse of asking about the return schedule. I peeked at the seating log. It had the names and seat numbers of every passenger. But the seat where that man had been sitting was blank. Nothing. The driver sighed, closed the notebook, and gave me a sideways look. Then he muttered, almost like he didn't want to say it out loud. It happens sometimes. Not everyone who gets on gets off. I left with a lump in my throat. I've never taken another night bus again. Because now I know, sometimes those empty seats aren't really empty. I've never really liked traveling by bus. Not out of fear or discomfort. There's just something about the darkness of a road, the sleeping passengers, the silence broken only by the tires on the pavement, that always made me feel a weird kind of unease I couldn't explain. Still, I've taken buses more times than I can count, even if I didn't like it. I never consider myself someone who got spooked easily. Even after hearing all those creepy road stories, I always figured they were just that, stories. Until the day I lived one of my own. It was a long trip, and my only goal was to sleep through most of it. I picked a window seat near the middle of the bus and watched as the rest of the passengers boarded. A few rows ahead, I noticed a young man helping an older gentleman to his seat. The elderly man walked slowly behind him, and they both sat down, grandson on the aisle, grandpa by the window. I remember thinking it was sweet. Not everyone takes the time to travel with their grandparents these days. Eventually, the bus took off, and the rhythm of the road lulled me to sleep. I don't know how much time passed, but I woke up when I felt the bus shift slightly. Still groggy, I opened my eyes just in time to see the old man stand up slowly and begin walking toward the back of the bus. He moved with effort, and as he passed me, I instinctively pulled my legs in to give him space. He disappeared behind me, presumably heading to the restroom. I didn't think much of it. Just closed my eyes again and tried to fall back asleep. But half an hour later, I woke again, this time because I really needed to use the restroom. I stretched a bit, got ready to get up, and that's when I noticed something strange. The restroom door was still shut. He hadn't come back. I waited a few more minutes, but the door stayed closed. That's when concern kicked in. What if he was feeling sick? What if he'd fallen? I stood up, walked up to the young man who'd been sitting with him, and gently tapped him on the shoulder. He opened his eyes slowly, looking confused. I explained that his grandfather had gone to the bathroom a long while ago and hadn't returned. Maybe he needed help. The guy stared at me, silent. Too silent. Then, with a puzzled look, he said, "I think you've got me confused with someone else. I'm traveling alone." That stopped me cold. I repeated what I'd seen. That I saw him board with the elderly man. That they sat together. That I saw the old man walk past me. But the young guy just kept shaking his head, now looking just as disturbed as I was. "I'm sorry, but I didn't come with anyone. I don't know any old man." My mind scrambled to rationalize it. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I'd seen something wrong. Maybe they just happened to board at the same time, and I made an assumption. But no. I knew what I saw. I saw them together. Still, I apologized awkwardly and turned to go back to my seat. That's when he called out to me, his voice shaking. "Wait, what did he look like?" I described the old man as best I could, his approximate age, build, the sweater he wore. The young man looked down. He stayed silent for a while. Then he said something I'll never forget. "My grandfather passed away a few days ago. I didn't get to see him before he died. I was too far away. I didn't make it in time." I stood there stunned, replaying what I'd seen. A man I thought was alive, walking beside me down the aisle. Was it his spirit? Was he there to say goodbye? The guy thanked me for telling him what I saw, and I quietly returned to my seat. The rest of the trip felt like a dream, like I was drifting between sleep and something else. I knew what I saw. He was there. But if the grandson never saw him, if no one else did, what does that mean? Ever since that trip, I've wondered if I have a gift. A curse. A sensitivity to things others can't see. And the most unsettling part is, I'm certain that man knew his grandson was on that bus. Whether to say goodbye or to watch over him one last time. What I'll never forget is this. That man got on the bus with his grandson. But he never got off.